Today we start talking about Chapter 4, which is social media etiquette, or really the rules of engagement on social media. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about permission versus interruption marketing. Way back in 1999, Seth Godin wrote a book called Permission Marketing. And Seth is well known for his insights on marketing. He's one of my favorite gurus to read up on. So I highly recommend you check out his books and his blog. If you are considering marketing for your future career. But he started the conversation on permission versus interruption marketing, which is what we're going to talk about today. When we think of traditional marketing, such as radio or TV or newspaper, it relies heavily on what we call interruption marketing. And when we talk about interruption marketing, marketers are purchasing the right to interrupt the customer from what they were doing. So, for example, they can interrupt the customer while the customer is watching a TV show with a commercial, or they can interrupt the customer while they're reading a magazine with a 2-page advertisement spread in print. And so that is interrupting the customers. In interruption marketing, marketers will display their ads regardless of whether or not the customer wants to see them. So who cares what the customer thinks? We paid for it. We're placing our ad here. Interruption marketing really focuses on selling a product, and therefore will focus on benefits and use a persuasive tone when talking about the product. Interruption marketing is loud. Interruption marketing informs consumers about products, but it also encourages competition between sellers. So if one company is marketing their product, you better believe that the other companies who compete are also going to be marketing their product. And each one of those competitors tries to be the loudest with their marketing materials and make sure that the customer hears them over the competition. So that is interruption marketing, and that is used very heavily in traditional marketing elements such as radio, TV, and newspaper and magazines. So let's talk about what Seth introduced to us as permission marketing. When we talk about permission marketing, it really relies on the attention of being earned from the audience. So we want our customers to consent to being marketed to. We want them to welcome and even request our marketing messages. So, for example, we want the customer to opt into our email. We want the customer to follow our brand on social media. We want them to request messages from us. And when we talk about permission-based marketing, one thing to point out is that the budget is less important, and a solid strategy combined with the passion of a marketing expert is critical. Social media is permission-based marketing. It's not easy because people have a choice about whether or not to engage with a social media marketing campaign. So brands and companies have to earn the viewer's attention on social media. Think of it as inviting someone to come over to your house for dinner. The outsiders, which are the brands in this case, have to get an invitation or permission to visit a person's social media home, which is their news feed. So they have to like our brand, they have to follow our brand, they have to friend our brand. They are giving us an invitation to show up on their news feeds. So that is permission marketing. And Seth has an entire blog post on permission marketing that is posted in Module 2 for you to take a look at, in addition to the content that's provided in your textbook. And it's very important that we understand all of the different characteristics of permission marketing, because as we build social media marketing campaigns, we want to make sure that we are not interrupting our customers in any way, but rather we're asking for their permission to deliver messages to them. So after we get an invitation, what is successful permission-based marketing? When using a permission-based marketing model, your goal is to give the customer something of value, because that's the way to get invited in. If you're constantly providing value on your social media platforms, customers are going to want that information, and they're going to want to make sure that they can get to it. So they're going to give you an invitation. When we are trying to add value, there's a couple different things we can do. And your book walks through what they call the PARC model. And so the first way to add value on social media is to be participatory. When a brand or a company is being participatory on social media, they can't just post. The brand has to interact with the community by answering questions, thanking people, having conversations, not just posting information, but rather being participatory. A brand should also be authentic on social media. Authenticity is a way to add value. And when we talk about authenticity, we're talking about being truthful. But it's more than just telling the truth. Remember that information spreads quickly on the internet. So we can't be deceptive or sneaky in content we're posting on behalf of a brand or a company. Viral marketing is a thing, and brands do get called out. I'm sure you've seen it in various different platforms on social media, brands being called out for not quite telling the truth. But like your book states, being authentic is more than telling the truth. Being authentic implies conversing without being forced or false. It's very easy to tell when someone or some brand is trying too hard to sound excited or serious on social media. So that authentic voice is very important when you're trying to add value. Being resourceful. One of the easiest ways for a brand to be resourceful online is to provide the audience with helpful information. And for most companies, this involves providing customer service via social media, giving the customers another outlet to ask questions and gather information. But it could also mean posting how-to videos. And so there's lots of ways companies can be resourceful on social media platforms. And then the last piece of the PARC, that PARC model of adding value, is being credible. And credibility, like we discussed in Module 1, is demonstrating that the brand is a leader in the industry. Brands should be showcasing original thoughts and ideas related to the product or the industry online. And so, like I said, this really goes back to that introduction to some of those social media goals and strategies of how are we proving ourselves as a credible competitor in the marketplace. That is a way to add value when we're posting information online. So what we've done in this lecture is we've looked at why social media is more participatory than interruption marketing, why it's more permission-based than interruption-based. And we've looked at ways to add value so that we can get an invitation to be on our consumers' social media pages. And so in the next lecture, we're going to dive into some of those rules of engagement and talk about social media etiquette.